special music for us too. It's not really horror. What's up, everybody? I know we started a little bit early, but we're just gonna do a little bit of BSing, get a few people in here. I'm on obviously with KDot, but glad everybody could be here. Mick T's already in there. Kip was in there earlier. I don't know if he's still in there. We're just gonna BS before the start of the show. We're gonna have a really good one for you guys today. This is the first of what I hope is many podcasts with KDot. We're big horror
Yeah.
fans.
Yes.
I've got so much ground to cover with KDot. Like it almost seems like KDot's a virgin at this. Because the amount of knowledge and movies that I've seen is crazy. I know KDot's seen quite a few, but he's in for like a history lesson when it comes to horror movies. I'm a huge horror buff, man, and I anything from Nosferatu, 1922, the silent movie, up until right now. I think I've seen every horror movie imaginable. K dot. So
Right.
we've got a lot to cover, man. Uh, K dot and I are a little under the weather. That's why our voices are going to be a little off. Yeah, I noticed K dot
Yeah.
in there. Yeah, he's he's got a touch of the cold that I got. Luckily, K dot, it's not COVID, so
Right.
I don't.
Right.
I did test for it, but no COVID. So before we start this analysis, I'm going to call it K dot of The Shining. What are some of your favorite horror movies that you may want to do a deep dive into in the future?
I mean, obviously, I think Halloween, because I wouldn't say it's the first slasher, because obviously we had Psycho. I think Psycho was really the first slasher. Um, then you had Chainsaw Massacre and then Halloween, but I would say I would say that movie's iconic because a lot of I'll give you an example. You know, The Undertaker, right, in the
Mhm.
WWE,
Right.
and Kane specifically said they watched that movie and did his movements as far as moving up, like sitting up, and the way his mask went like this, and
Mhm.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
and got those Simmons. So I think I mean, Halloween is iconic.
Yeah,
Uh,
Halloween's one we could do too, K-Dot, for sure. I would love to do a deep dive on Halloween because there's
yeah,
lots to talk about there. That's like it like you said, it's not the original slasher,
yeah,
but that movie in particular brought on a wave of
of other,
slashers
yeah,
going forward, a la Friday the 13th. You had anything from that to, I mean, the Mutilator. You had
yeah,
the Burning. You had uh,
Chucky, or
yeah,
Child's Play, I should say.
Chucky,
Child's
Child's
Play,
Play,
yeah,
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 yeah. Uh, I mean, everything kind of riffed on Halloween, right? So
yeah.
that's another great one that we can definitely do in the future. You know what we should do, K Dot? We should come up with four or five, um, and then like for our next one, I don't know when it's gonna be. It seems hard with what we do to find time to do fun stuff like this, K Dot. But
Oh man, tell me
uh,
about it.
I think we do need to make time. What's up, Lou? What's up,
I
Johnny Bravo, Hawk fan? We haven't started yet. We're going to be starting in about 7 minutes. We're just doing a little pre-show banter for you guys. This is going to be a special deal. This is a podcast, basically dealing with the movie The Shining,
The
and we're going to do a
Shining.
deep dive. Guys, we're not only going to talk about the movie in general
Mhm.
terms, but I'm going to break it down to K-Dot in a way that he probably didn't even think about when he watched it. The first time
Yeah.
watching it for K-Dot was yesterday, I believe, right, K-Dot?
No,
And
not yesterday. I
day
Sunday.
before?
Give me my credit, sir.
It only
I'm
took
a
you
man about my word, and I
only
said
took you like
Sunday.
2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 months, but we got you. So
I was I would like to state that I was harassed and
yes, I mean that is
heavily
true. I did
and
harass
trolled to watch this movie.
by
If
my
I could put
audience
that
or yours, KDot. Maybe both.
maybe both.
Oh man, it's gonna be fun. I think you guys are gonna have a lot of fun. Alfredo, welcome to the chat. Nice to
Hey,
have you in here.
Alfredo, Johnny Bravo in the chat.
So before we get started in about 5 minutes here, Kate, I want to ask you what are your top 5 favorite horror movies in general?
Okay. Uh, like in order or just like
Yeah, you can do it in any order. We'll get into that at some point, I'm sure. But like your Mount Rushmore, add one more to that Mount Rushmore of horror movies for yourself.
okay. Um, I would say obviously Halloween. Uh, Child's Play.
Wow. Okay.
Child's Play for
That's interesting.
sure. That scared the shit out of me. Cause I don't know if
Matthew
you remember
Pelton.
those My Buddy dolls.
My
And
buddy,
My Buddy
my
dolls
buddy, my
played
buddy
very
and me.
close to those Chucky dolls, and my brother had my Buddy doll. So, and I could have sworn I seen that thing move, but
Right. Right. When
that's
you're a
neither
kid, you
here.
think of a lot of things, man.
I would have to say, man, Exorcist.
Ooh, good one. Oh, here we go.
Our
Kata.
voice
Ah,
API.
shit. Sorry. That just I need to get the YouTube premium so I don't get commercials because I wanted to play something a little special for you, Kata.
Oh,
Just for
okay.
you. Just for you. Hang on right here.
My buddy, wherever I go, he goes. My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy.
That
I'll
is
teach him
hilarious.
everything that I know. My buddy.
I wonder, Kata. I really wonder if that was kind of the inspiration for the look of Chucky. I'll have to do my
Yeah, I
homework on
wonder too.
yeah.
The Wrong Turn,
Wow, really? Wrong turn. That's amazing.
the
I
first one.
that's the
Yeah,
first I've ever heard of somebody putting a wrong turn on their
yeah, Wrong
top 3
Turn,
movies.
and what was that, 4 or 3? Where was that?
I think that's 3 for you. I think you got
Okay, 3.
Halloween, you got Chucky
Child's
or
Play, and
Child's Play,
okay,
Exorcist,
Wrong
and
Turn.
Halloween.
Oh
So
yeah.
one
So
more.
one more. And I would say the last one. I'm gonna have to go with. I'm probably gonna have to go with the Shining.
Ooh,
Yeah. So
wow, already, man.
I did say
Well,
top 5. So
let's see if I
top
can get that up a little bit in this podcast. For me, it's in I mean in no particular order. Obviously, The Shining. You mentioned Halloween, so I got to put that up there. It's definitely one of the greatest. For
Jeepers
me,
Creepers was
also,
good too. Yeah, you're right,
Nightmare on Elm
Alfredo.
Street is up there
Oh yeah, of course, the
uh,
first one, man.
on the Mount Rushmore.
I forgot. I don't. How did I? Yeah,
You probably want to put that up there instead of Wrong Turn,
yeah.
bro, because there's a better version. There's a better version of Wrong Turn, and it's called The Hills Have Eyes. I don't know if you've ever seen the old and new version of that.
I've seen. Uh, I think I did see The Hills Have Eyes, and they were like weird looking people, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
hillbilly type.
yeah. Then she like, yeah, it was crazy. That was pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got 2 more to go. I probably would say The Thing is on my Mount Rushmore, so another nod to John Carpenter. And I dated the girl from the new Hills Have Eyes. Really, Matthew King. Wow.
You know what? I got to take that one. Can I really redo that? 'Cause
Absolutely.
okay. So Halloween,
Yep.
Child's Play,
Yep.
Scream, the very first Scream,
Oh, good choice.
not Friday. I mean
Nightmare on
Nightmare
Elm
on
Street.
Elm Street, and uh The Shining. So
Okay, all right, that's pretty
I think that's
decent,
a good
man.
one.
Pretty decent. Blue Unicorn. I always thought dolls were a dumb monster. I'm not really afraid of most plush toys. I can punt through a window. Okay.
Like Scream for me, Scream when I first seen Scream, I mean, it was like especially the first opening scene. It was just so you were so locked in,
Yeah, yeah,
and you couldn't just walk away and get a snack or anything like that. Like it
yeah,
was just one of those movies you just already had to have your shit already ready and ready to go.
yeah,
Um, and it was different.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't understand the ghost face thing. Like, well, why are they getting this? I think this fucking costume's at the, I see this costume all the time. But it
It's
wasn't necessarily about the costume, it was about the theme of the movie, two idiotic, narcissistic kids who were, I would say, more Billy. He was incredibly emotional,
yeah, yeah. Walter,
and
welcome.
and entitled.
Yeah,
I mean, he was just a fucking brat. Oh, my dad left because your mom screwed my dad, and I'm gonna,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
what? Like,
yeah,
and then where it kind of took his horror uh craze in from fantasy to reality. So that was, yeah. So
yeah, yeah. All right, let's get started here, guys. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk about that, but tonight is all about The Shining. So if you've never seen the movie The Shining, you're going to get a history lesson tonight. Spoiler alert before we get started. KDot, you ready? Ready to do this thing?
let's do it, man. Let's
I
do
got
it.
I got an intro. It's not really horror themed or anything like that, but I
Oh, I
think you
thought it was
guys
gonna
will.
be horror.
No, no. I mean, I kind of like this intro. It's an old intro that I had from way back. So, I mean, I could probably change it later, but let's just I mean, this is our first go at this. So, first
All right,
podcast, first movie, I thought it'd give us a little uplifting kind of, foray into what we're about ready to delve into. So, here we go. Without
all right.
further ado. All right, welcome everybody to the K&M Horror Hour. I know KDOT had a different name for this podcast, and for the life of me, I couldn't remember it. I'm
It's
sure
called Scary Swag, man.
Scary
Scary
Swag.
Swag.
All right, I'll change it for next time. Welcome everybody. This is MLH. With me is a man who needs obviously no introduction. The mighty DJ KDOT, the party. KDOT, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad that we're able to do this finally on my part, and I was able to watch the movie, and I'm kind of mad that I didn't watch it earlier. So,
Yeah,
but
I'm
we're
really
here now.
surprised. I'm really surprised. We finally got to this point, KDOT. What KDOT's referring to, he's never seen the movie The Shining, and that's the focus of our roughly hour show today. It might go a little under, a little over. We'll see how it goes. Lots to talk about when it comes to this movie. Um, First impressions, Kata, because it's really rare to find a shining virgin, so to say. So it made such a good
Yeah,
impression on you, though, Kata, that you already have it in your top 5 scariest movies of all time.
yeah.
Talk about your experience watching it, because I think it's fascinating that you've never seen this movie before.
It was. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was gonna be boring. And like just drawn out, but every little thing from the music, just everything was put together so perfectly. Um, Stephen King is insane. Is a sanely evil genius. Uh, and like I was telling you, like I could not stop watching it. It was that intense. It was just from beginning to end. Even if it wasn't straight into the kill scenes or when he went completely ape shit, like it was it caught your attention and you didn't want to leave the screen for sure. You're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
Like,
for
what?
sure, man, for sure. We got a lot of people in chat here. Let me just quickly run through them. We got Matthew's in here, Howard County's in here, Kip is in here, Blue Unicorn. We will be going through your comments as well. Like this one, I think the younger generation will find The Shining far too slow because they're minuscule attention spans. There's no doubt about that, Russell. We are going to talk about it. KDot just touched on it actually. About the slow pacing of this movie. Now, movies like this don't come along very often. All right, I know there's a few nowadays. Like Hereditary is a great one. That's in my top 10 great scary movies of all time.
Yeah.
Another one is like Rosemary's Baby, just kind of a slow burn. Like you don't really know what the hell's going on at first, but basically, The Shining is a descent into madness. Is the best way that I can put it. And you mentioned the meticulous nature of this movie. The Shining from start to finish is picture perfect. I think it's one of the most perfect horror movies ever created. There's some interesting tidbits about it. You mentioned Stephen King. This movie is based on the book The Shining by Stephen King. Um, the movie was actually shot in Montana. A lot of people think that the movie was shot in Colorado. Parts of it were like I know the old Stapleton Airport got a little play here for a couple of the scenes, but most of it was shot in Montana. The hotel that Stephen King stayed at is in Estes Park. It's called the Stanley Hotel. That is not the hotel that is in the movie. That's another misconception. That hotel is in Montana. I can't remember the
Right.
name of that hotel, but it is really creepy. A lot to talk about with this movie in regards to some of the subtext. So on the surface, this movie is basically, like I said, a man going into descending into madness over the isolation at the Overlook Hotel. He basically takes a job for the winter at this hotel, which can't you can't really you can't really get to this hotel once the snow starts. There's feet of snow, so you're completely isolated. Even though the hotel is self-sustaining, it's got plenty of food. It's got it's got plenty of space. It's warm. They got snow cats there in case you need to go somewhere. It's there's just a lot going on. Strictly Strange, welcome, Ira Z. Nice to have you in here. Lots of great people in here. Russell, thank you. Red Rum, we'll get to that, Russell. So there's an interesting subplot in this movie. So it's basically a man, a wife, and their son holed up in this motel for the winter. And slowly but surely, the man kind of goes insane. Of course, played by Jack Nicholson. Oddly enough, his name in the movie is Jack.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So you have Jack, Wendy, and then you have I forget the kid's name.
Oh, Doc.
Doc. Yeah. Well, that's what
No, I'm playing.
that's his
That's his nickname.
nickname. I can't
Yeah.
remember what his name is in the movie. It's kind of insignificant.
Was
But
it Daniel? Wasn't it Daniel?
Danny. Yes,
Danny.
Danny.
Okay. Yeah.
So in going okay, so Danny has a special psychic ability called the Shining, hence the name The Shining, and he is basically able to kind of not predict the future, but he can see what's to come. And Dick Halloran, another character in the movie, the only black character in the movie, oddly enough, also has The Shining and kind of meets with Wendy and Danny, and he kind of has these moments with Danny where he's kind of explaining The Shining. They basically can talk telepathically, which is also an interesting kind of aspect of this movie. But the whole setup is there. So family, Man is slowly but surely going insane, and it culminates with a heck of an ending scene where um, Jack is basically chasing Danny in a maze. And there's snow. It's an outdoor kind of hedge maze. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that or seen the movie. And Danny outsmarts Jack by basically going back on his footprints, and thus trapping Jack in the maze, and he and Wendy and him getting a snowcat, and they drive off, and that's kind of the end of the movie. There's a lot of themes going on in this movie, K. Dot. I don't know if you caught a lot of it, but at the beginning, when Jack is basically talking about the position at the hotel there, he mentions the fact that it's built on an old Indian burial ground. So I don't know if you caught that.
You know what? I didn't catch that. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now, Stanley Kubrick, who directed this movie, is notoriously meticulous when it comes to every frame that he produces on a movie. Yes, definitely spoiler alert on a 40-year-old movie, Alfredo. So if you guys don't want to be spoiled by this podcast, then just watch the movie.
You probably should have put hashtag spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 40-year-old movie. If you haven't seen it by now, I don't know what's going to entice you to watch it. I mean, it just, it's one of those movies. If you've seen it, you've seen it. If you haven't, Blue Unicorn mentioned Scatman Carruthers, who was absolutely excellent in this movie for the small screen time that he had. A great actor, great character actor back in the day. He played in a lot of movies. But anyways, so back to the Indian burial ground. There is a theme within this movie, KDot, of the Native American genocide. I don't know if you've noticed some of the scenes, like you would see, obviously when they were going around the hotel, there were, the Native American culture pictures up on the wall. And then in another scene, like in the pantry, you would see Indian baking soda, I think is what the name of the baking soda was. So there's this constant Kubrick does things so subtly that if you missed it, you probably wouldn't, I mean, it's not something that the normal person, I'm such a nerd when it comes to these movies, K-Dot, that I catch almost everything. Like a lot of times I can catch who the killer is just based on visuals and stuff of that nature, and sound cues and stuff like that. You can ask Bernie. I just have this knack for, like spoiling movies for everybody. So I just shut my mouth throughout the whole movie. But in this movie, there are themes of genocide. There are themes of child abuse and child sexual abuse. I don't know if you caught that, Kate.
Well, yeah, I had, okay. So Danny had came out of 237, and his shirt was slightly ripped, and he had a red marking around his neck, like
Yes.
as if he was strangled, and he was sucking his thumb.
Yes.
So
Yes. There's other scenes in there that will give you those clues too, K-Dot. When at the beginning of the movie, when they're going around kind of looking at where they're going to be staying, they pass by Danny's bed, right? And there's this really, it to this day, it still kind of creeps me out because Jack passes Danny's bed, and the gentleman is explaining, well, this is, your son's room or whatever, and he kind of like pushes on the bed, and he looks at, he gets his smile, the smile, the Jack Nicholson smile, and he's like, ooh, comfy, so that kind of, it was a subtle kind of tick that something just isn't right there, and you also picked up on the fact that he came out of room 237, which would indicate that something happened in that room. Now they didn't go into it, but obviously with the clothes being ripped, and the mark on the neck. I mean, who else could have done that but Jack, right? I mean, and Danny's not going to go out and say that, because why would he do that? It's only him, Wendy, and Jack, right? I mean, there's nothing to be done there. I mean, there's nothing that could be done. Also, at the beginning of the movie, there was a visit by a healthcare worker, this lady that went to their house
Yeah.
before they got to the hotel, and they kind of, they were talking about Danny, and there's some subtle clues in there that something isn't quite right. So you always have this feeling of unease in this movie, and I think that's
Right.
exactly what Kubrick was doing when he made this movie. Everything was just perfectly placed. Like there's also themes of that type of abuse. Another clue was, if you remember, um, Jack was sitting there waiting to be interviewed, and the guy came out, and he was actually reading a Playgirl magazine, not Playboy, Playgirl.
Whoa.
So that may have indicated that Jack had a propensity to, look at men more than women. Also, there was
Oh,
another.
Jack was reading the Playgirl
Yeah, yeah,
magazine?
you didn't catch that, did you?
Wow, I
Yeah,
didn't.
most people.
Damn.
Yeah, most people won't catch that, man.
Wow.
Also,
Okay.
there's another quick little
Yeah.
scene in the movie as it progresses. It's somewhere in the middle of the movie where Jack is looking and he sees this. It's real quick. I mean, it's Ghost. They're obviously Ghost, but he sees this man in a bear costume,
Yep.
basically, this is. I mean, we're all adults here. I hope so. If you have any kids, you might want to put them in the other room. But
Right.
this guy in a bear costume is basically filleting another man in a room, and he gets a quick glimpse of that. I mean, that was the obvious implication. So
Wait. I thought that was the wife. The
no,
wife had, but
no.
the wife had passed the
Oh,
room,
maybe
and
it
she
was the
came.
wife. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the wife had
Yeah,
passed the room because
right.
she. This is when she was like, ah.
Yeah, yeah,
She,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that shit was crazy. I'm like, what the hell
Yeah,
is
see, so
going?
so all of these things kind of add up to that was kind of the ghost basically saying, "Hey, something wrong is here."
Right.
I mean, maybe a nod to Jack maybe having his way with Danny, and that's why Danny kind of has these. You kind of think he has these problems. Howard County Welcome. He says the book and movie are rather different for this. Stephen King did not appreciate the movie. He grew he grew
Wow.
he grew to love the movie though, Howard County. There was a remake of The Shining.
Was it?
Yes, it was a made for TV kind of mini series,
Got
and
it.
it was not very good. It
Oh,
wasn't nearly as good as the movie, but it was closer to the book. And a
got it.
little side note to that, Lake Middle School was used at the end of that movie. KDot, the middle school that I went to, that we went and for location shooting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that actually was used for the college at the end of the miniseries of the updated miniseries.
Well,
So
I'll be
just a
damned. Okay.
little kind of note there. But
You okay?
so there are a lot of things in this movie that are really eerie, and we're going to get into the supernatural part of it. A lot of this movie has to do with basically ghost and the supernatural, and not very nice ghost either. I mean, if you remember in the movie, there's Grady, the quote unquote caretaker. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of like a duality there, right? So you have
Yeah.
Jack, that's the current caretaker, and then the ghost Grady, was the caretaker of the past, who basically killed his two daughters, the twins in the movie, the very famous twins that you see in a lot of commercials and pop culture.
Right.
So there's a little bit of foreshadowing there of what's really going to happen with Jack, because when Jack first encounters these ghosts, he basically is taken back to I believe the 1920s, if I'm not mistaken, K Dot.
Yep.
Um,
1921. Yep.
yeah, somewhere around there, 22, 21, somewhere around there. And those were that's when that hotel kind of like had that incident, and he's told about that incident at the beginning, and it doesn't bother Jack. And you would think that maybe he would have some pause, to think about these things, maybe talk to his wife, and he basically says, "Well, I mean, I don't care about that. I basically, I write, so I could use a little R and R, kind of
And
deal."
and and then oh, they'll love it. just automatically just without oh they'll be fine. They'll love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He basically dismisses their feelings altogether. I mean, how would you think they would feel? I mean, if they were
Right.
told, I mean, people died here. Obviously
Well,
Wendy might have some issues with it.
I think Danny uh I think he was talking to his friend Tony
Yes.
or something like that.
Yeah, it's me.
Imaginary friend.
Yeah.
And he was saying like, nah, this ain't it. Don't go.
Yep.
You
He's
don't feel
basically
comfortable going.
foreshadowing that as well. Yeah, this is bad news. Um, it's crazy. Now the first half of the movie is basically set up, right? Like you just it opens up
Yep.
with this beautiful. I think he used a helicopter for this shot, KDot.
Hmm.
Nowadays, a drone could pretty much do the same visual
For sure.
that he did with the helicopter, but it was a great um, kind of foreboding kind of like long shot of them driving on the side of this mountain, up to this isolated kind of hotel in the mountains, very pretty but also very ominous. And I don't know if you caught it, but in the book, he passed as they were driving, they passed I think it was a red Volkswagen. It was either a red or yellow Volkswagen. In the book, he did it a completely different color than what Stephen King did in the book, and it was kind of an fu to Stephen King, and that's how Stephen King took it, because Stephen
Yeah.
King was not happy with this movie at the beginning. He's grown to kind of appreciate it as something different than his book.
Yeah.
But that was Kubrick's way of saying "fuck you" to Stephen King. I'm going to do things my way.
And that was the director, right?
Yes, the director Stanley Kubrick,
So
who,
did
yeah,
I mean how much do you think? Because I haven't read the book. Now I want to read the book, but
yeah.
how much like percentage wise how much do you think went in from the book to the movie
Yeah,
percentage
it's a
wise?
fair question. I think it was about 50-50, K-Dot. Like,
Oh
they
wow,
got
that much, huh?
yes, he did change. I mean, he actually he got the main beats of the book, but I don't wanna say it's unrecognizable, but it's there's a lot of changes, a lot of
Okay.
changes. If you watch the miniseries, which you can probably rent or whatever, it's quite a bit different from the movie, and it's a lot closer to the book. So if you want to do kind of a clip notes version of the book, then you would watch the miniseries and kind of get a sense. It to me, it was hokey and it wasn't scary, and nobody liked that movie. The book is actually really good, though. You do get the sense of dread. You get a sense of Jack and his descent into madness. It's been so many years. It's been decades since I read the book, so I couldn't give you very specific kind of an idea of how that book went, but the main beats are still there, but there's a lot different. So um there was a scene in the movie, K Dot, where you really know that Jack has lost it, right? He's been isolated in this hotel for at least a month, and you can definitely tell that something isn't quite right. And the scene I'm referring to is the scene where Wendy happens upon Jack's quote unquote writing, his typing,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
he wrote,
yeah,
and she comes across it, and nobody's in there. Jack's not in there. He's already gone gonzo. I mean, you could see him playing tennis for like with himself, like hand tennis, handball,
right.
against the wall, and you can just tell something isn't really great going on there. Like there's something that's either got a hold of him, or he just simply has just lost it. I mean, he's already dealt with Ghost. He went into the room where, the dance hall where he picked up drinking again. That's another kind of theme of the movie, is
Yeah,
alcoholism. And he even mentions that he was sober after long bouts with drinking.
right,
He goes
right.
back to it. with the ghost bartender, and the ghost bartender's kind of egging him on to drink. Will you have your usual, stuff like that. And that's also when
Yeah.
he sees Grady, and things, kind of tumble from there. But the scene in question, uh, Wendy gets in there and she starts to look at his quote unquote book, and there's probably hundreds of pages there, but they say the same thing. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, but it's written like this guy was actually like writing a book. Like there's paragraphs, there's different ways of
Yeah.
typing it. It's just a series of the same sentence over and over and over. So he
Right.
spent all the majority of that time he spent just writing the same sentence over and over. So right then
Yeah.
you kind of know, hey, something's up here.
Yeah.
He's wackadoo, you know?
Well, I think I'm gonna because I was when he was throwing the ball against the wall, and I'm like, why is he? What the fuck is he doing?
Yeah.
What if he tears up their property or whatever? Like what? But I think he was starting to lose it, like to unwind when him, his wife, and his Danny
Mhm.
were driving to the location, and Danny was asking him questions, and he was just like, and then he talked about the whole cannibalism thing,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then he was just like, see, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's
Yeah.
still not okay. Like,
It,
what the
it's
fuck?
it's sort of like the whole mountain kind of had an influence from the get-go, huh? It's
Yeah,
it it
man.
it it
Yeah.
really was like that. Um And so that scene continues, and let's take a listen to how this scene kind of broke down. So I'm going to play a little audio clip of the moment where Jack just basically turns on Wendy. Wendy takes up a bat and has to defend herself against Jack here.
You've had your whole fucking life to think things over. What good's a few minutes more gonna do you now?
Stay away from me. Please. Don't hurt me.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
Stay away from me.
Wendy,
Stay away.
darling, light of my life. I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
Stay away from me. Don't hurt me.
All right, so there's the pivotal scene of basically the whole movie when the chase
Yep.
starts. He basically lets it loose, and you can tell he's completely lost it because he's like, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. And can you imagine hearing that? Whether it's it's from your wife, your brother, your whoever, I mean that would basically say it all right there, right,
I mean,
Kata?
that sounds pretty damn hurtful.
Yeah,
You bashing my brains in.
right.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
Right.
Bash it.
I mean,
Okay. Well,
come on, there's a big difference there, right? Bashing
yeah,
your
of
brains
course.
in. Uh, yeah.
What the hell?
I'm not gonna hurt you is exactly what someone says right before they hurt you,
Yeah,
Unicorn says. Yeah, it's
pretty much.
crazy. Excuse me. Um, let's see. Stanley Smeghead's in chat. What's up, Smeghead? He said Stanley Kubrick's movie was awesome. The TV version was to the book, but was crapola. The book is better than that movie, Smeghead, but it is closer. The TV version is a lot closer, but it was very muted because on TV you can't really go full rated R,
So
right?
here's my question for you:
Yeah.
Was the book better than the movie?
No, no. This is one of the rare instances, KDot,
Wow.
where the movie is better than the book.
Wow.
It
Okay.
really is. I mean, I like the book quite a bit too. Like I said, it's been years and years since I read it, and it's excellent. And I highly recommend it, whether it's in
Okay.
audio format or just picking up a book and reading. It won't take you but probably a week, and if you're a fast reader, even sooner than that. I mean, I could read that book in probably 3 days.
Okay.
But yeah, the movie is excellent on so many levels, K-Dot. I told you it to me it's the scariest movie of all time, and we've had that discussion, and you couldn't quite believe it because here it is, this movie, this slow burn movie where you know just not a lot goes on at the beginning, and everything kind of happens at the back half of the movie, right? But if you take everything in totality, the fact that Jack Nicholson puts this performance for the ages. Wendy, played by oh, what is her name? She played Olive Oil in Popeye. Shelley Duvall. That's right. Thanks,
Shelley
Bernie. Bernie's
Duvall.
here in studio. She is Shelley Duvall. Another thing about this movie is to let you a little bit in on Stanley Kubrick's way of making movies. Everything had to be meticulous. He was known to do 100 takes if that's what it took, and you as an actor had to pretty much either do it or I mean, he would get the performance out of you. And I know I'd mentioned to you that
Yeah.
Wendy, Shelley Duvall's performance in
Right.
this movie broke her in so many different ways because he was so demanding. He would treat her like shit. I mean, he didn't want anybody to hang out with her, so she was isolated. I mean, so her performance is pretty genuine in this movie. I mean, the scene that I just played for you, the audio. If you watch the video, she's flailing this. I mean, she's a frail woman to begin with,
Yeah.
Shelley Duvall, but she's flailing this bat around, right? And she could
Mhm.
barely do it. Like you could tell she was at the brink
Yeah.
of total exhaustion and probably mental exhaustion as well. It was crazy, some of the stuff. If you listen
Yeah.
to some of the documentaries on this movie, it'll blow your mind how demanding Stanley Kubrick was on all of the actors, but in particular Shelley Duvall. She didn't
Which
do anything
makes
for
sense.
a long time.
Which makes sense for her to, like you had stated, that she was isolated and she had to be in that. Yeah, because and the character was isolated. She had to deal. It was like she was like a single mom.
Yeah.
um, and there was one scene that kind of took me for a loop, and she was like, "Well, hey Jack, once you finish doing what you're doing, take me out for a walk."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What are you, a fucking dog? Like, what? Who talks like that? I don't,
That gives you
why
an
don't we just go
indication.
walking? Why
Yeah,
don't we
see,
just spend some time
that
together? But
that
take
kind of
me
takes
out
you
for a walk."
yeah,
Like
that
that
takes you
was
into Jack's
just,
head, doesn't it, K-Dot?
yeah,
Like the way that he treats her in real life, well, in the real life in the context of the movie, right? He would, kind of do that. Here's something that Smeg had said. He said, "Who let Jack out of the cold room?" So basically, after this scene where Wendy is basically flailing the bat, she ends up landing a huge hit on his head and knocking him out down the
right,
stairs, right? And she, drags him to the cold room, basically where all the cold food is and stuff, and locks him in there.
yep.
And it's an interesting query because there's lots of theory on it, of who let him out, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to ask you, K. Dot, how do you think he got out of that cold room? Because there was no way that he could unlock that door from inside where
Right.
he was.
I think maybe the ghost of Bradley.
Ooh, Grady, you mean? Yeah, Grady.
Grady, I'm sorry, because he was having a whole full blown conversation, and Grady didn't believe that he would finish the job or have a talking to with his wife and his child. And he was just like, I don't really believe you. I don't know. He was just like, no, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna, yeah. And so I think it was Grady. That's the only sense I can come up with. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it either was Grady, or if you want to take a humanistic approach to it and kind of find
Okay.
like some sort of real world explanation, maybe the suction of the wind or something of that nature did it. But I'm with you. I think the ghost of Grady or any cast of other character, or just the overlook itself kind of could have done it as well, because the hotel takes on a really weird kind of character of its own, right? This
Yeah.
movie doesn't work without the hotel itself. And
Right.
something else interesting about this movie, K Dot, when Danny is going around and he's driving around on his little Hot Wheels during the whole thing, it's disorienting. right?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
have no idea, and it doesn't make sense. Like if you really break it down, that hotel is always changing. It's constantly changing because if you follow his path of lefts and rights, it
right,
shouldn't make any sense at all the way that he goes because I mean he's going left and then he takes a right and then there's no I mean, it's just really weird. It's almost as if the hotel changes according to the way that it changes. Because if you and they did this on another analysis that I will point you to, KDot, on this, and everybody in the audience. There is a really excellent kind of breakdown of The Shining on the channel called Collative Learning, and I highly recommend people go to that channel, subscribe, especially if you want to learn about film analysis and kind of like different things like what we're talking about today, but in a much
right,
more scientific, scholarly manner. Then it's a great channel to really really. I mean, they do things on the Terminator.
wow,
He does things. I mean, the Predator. He has analysis of The Shining. Obviously, The Shining is one of the most analyzed films of all time
yeah,
because there's so much to delve into there. I mean, we're not even going to get to half of what we really should get into. So as he's going around the hotel, there really is no rhyme or reason to that hotel. It doesn't make sense. They plotted Danny's path, and when he turns, there should be this hallway, and there's no hallway there. Like that. I mean,
right,
it's crazy the way that they broke it down. So I think that's just another way of saying that the hotel is messing with their heads. And messing in particular with Danny's head in that instance. And
right, right,
another kind of hint to that is he always ends up at 237, room 237, where
right,
the BS happened, and
right,
that's also the room that Jack comes across and finds a beautiful naked woman, right? And he
yeah,
thinks he's you hit the jackpot there. So that again says that he's willing to cheat on Wendy
yep,
and do whatever. It shows you his character more than anything, and it ends up being
yeah,
like he closes his eyes as he's kissing her, and he opens them, and it's just this decrepit old woman that's
ugh.
is I looks like she has like lichen on her body. It's so disgusting and gross.
Yeah, it's nasty. It's nasty as
Yeah, and
hell.
he kind of like, I mean, he freaks out about it.
She looks like a whole
Yeah,
sexual transmitted disease.
yeah, she really does. It looks like a leopard, like
Yeah.
on it chapter 2, the leopard. That's what it reminded me of. So
Well, I have two questions.
yeah,
So one question, Tony, right? Uh,
Tony.
the imaginary friend of Danny.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Was he evil or was he? Do you think he was just trying to help?
Mm. This is a
Like
good question.
what? Yeah. What is your
This is a
speculation?
good question, K-Dot. I take it as ambiguous. I think Tony was just another ghost that's basically letting Danny know that there's trouble up ahead. So you could look at it in a myriad of ways, but the way that I look at it is, it's not so much that Tony is the quote unquote hero and is kind of warning
Yeah.
Danny, but it's just
Mhm.
like Tony's best interest is in Danny, because without Danny, I don't think there is a Tony. So he's
Oh,
just like, he's basically looking out for quote unquote himself by looking out for Danny. So that's the way that I took it. I mean,
because he's a part of Danny.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
Danny gets hurt, he gets hurt.
yep, yep,
That makes sense.
yeah,
Johnny Bravo said Tony was the MVP.
yeah, pretty much. Now it's
Oh,
funny. I actually think another hero of the movie, and we discussed this off air
yeah,
for a short time, K Dot, but
yeah,
um, Halloran, Dick
yeah,
Halloran,
yeah,
played by Scatman Carruthers, I mentioned before.
yep.
This man goes completely out of his way to help this family, or at least help Danny. And you had an interesting thought on it that you know, I was laughing because it's like true in real life. This would have never have happened. Can you
Yeah.
expand on that? Okay.
Yeah. I specifically said said if I was that older man, I'm in Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like it's nice, it's warm, peaceful.
Right.
I'm not taking my black ass to help no damn body at no. I'm not getting paid to help to be a soup. Fuck that. Okay.
Right.
Uh, I'm not taking my ass out of this nice warm weather.
Right.
Okay, to to go help some people I don't even know. I don't even know these people. You know. And
Right.
they ain't paying me to come up there. If they die, that's on them. You took the job, motherfucker.
Right.
But
Right.
I took the job for a seat for this particular season. I know, hey, if he did, he lets you know what happened to the last person. You took the job, that's on you. So,
Right. Right.
uh, so I would have been enjoying my vacation. But I was wondering, there was a scene where he was laying in the bed, the the black man.
Yes.
Did the naked pictures mean something on the wall or
I think it
was
was. I think that was
what was
Kubrick's attempt at representing black culture. Actually,
oh okay.
there's
Okay.
actually there's some analysis on that, and I haven't delved too much into it.
Sure. Sure.
But I'm guessing that that's Kubrick's attempt at basically, a little bit of black culture in there, which is kind of rare. I mean, yeah, and other than the black exploitation films
Right.
of the 70s, you really don't get a lot of black culture in film. So I
Right.
think that was his attempt to like throw a nod at Scatman Carruthers, who was very highly respected back in the day.
Right. Right.
He, I mean, he never made a ton of money, but
Yeah.
everybody knew he could get the job done. They call it character acting, and there's a lot of character actors that are basically the chameleons of
Right.
of movies. You've seen them in everything, but you don't know their name, and they love it that way. And they make more money a lot of times than A-list actors because
Right. They're
you
always
know you
working.
can yeah, you know that you can count on them to basically give the director exactly what he wants going in
Okay.
cold, right?
Okay.
So you never have to worry about really directing them because they direct themselves and they know exactly what to do. And Scatman Carruthers was a lot like that.
Okay.
He always brought
Okay.
a game to like I mean it's like putting a man amongst boys, that character actors or women with girls. Like it just there's certain actors like that, KDot, that they're never going to be the A-list, A+ actors, but man, you can always rely on people like that to get things done,
Right.
so
Right.
that was part so yeah. That's my take on it, because Kubrick was pretty meticulous, so he wouldn't have put up those pictures of the nude women if he didn't think that it you know um, kind of represented black culture or
Right.
had something to do with that. So
Right. Right.
it's sort of like the Elvis painting, for people, like it just, back in the day, people used to put up pictures like that all the time. I can remember my mom having a big picture, like a velvet picture of a ship. I mean, it was just stuff
Right.
like that people were interested in back in the day. So yeah, Alfredo said it. In white popular culture, it's a velvet painting of Elvis. Black culture is a beautiful black woman nude. A lot of times,
Right.
sometimes not, but a lot of times. Jen, wow, nice to have you in there. Really
Hey,
appreciate
Jim.
it.
Wow.
So
Uh, and I think I had another question for you.
you did, and I cut you off.
I don't know.
If it comes back, KDOT,
Okay.
for sure.
I'll
All
try to
right, so we're
remember.
gonna we're gonna quickly go through the end of the movie here, KDOT, and it
Okay.
all. Let me see if I can get it here. It all kind of started with this one. If it, come on, do it, just do it. Why is it not doing it? All right.
Here's Johnny.
All right, so the famous this movie, I mean, you can't go anywhere in pop culture and not remember this scene. Here's Johnny. This was completely improvised by Jack Nicholson. At the time, Johnny Carson was the late night show host and super popular,
Oh,
and that's where he pulled it from. Here's Johnny.
that makes sense now. Okay, because I was gonna ask because obviously I think he was a ghost or whatever. I was thinking like, was that his ghost name, Johnny, or like when they showed the picture of the 1921 thing?
Right.
And I
Oh,
was, I
Johnny
didn't.
Bravo also brought up something, red rum. And
Yeah,
red rum is interesting because red rum, obviously, if you look at a mirror, it's
yeah,
backwards for murder, right?
yeah,
And Danny basically says it over and over and over because he knows what's upcoming. He knows what happened in the past there, and that's his way of letting Wendy know, his mom, that something really really bad's happening here. And it's weird because when you think of that red rum, it's
yeah,
backwards for a
yep,
reason. It's a duality, right? And it speaks to the duality of Jack. It
yep,
speaks to the duality of Danny, and in some ways Wendy too. Because Wendy actually uh, does show a bit of strength at the end of the movie by
yeah,
dragging him over to the cold room, and then obviously like helping Jack out of the hotel, even though he didn't have a jacket on. And that's when the scene ensues where Jack is chasing Danny through the maze, and then Danny is an absolute genius.
he is.
He basically kind of backtrack, like he runs into this maze knowing full well that his dad Jack is basically chasing him with an axe, right? By the way, Jack kills Danny Halloran in one of the first real jump scares that I myself actually did jump out of my chair. Holy shit. Moment, when I first saw this movie, it was terrifying. It was one of those jump
Yeah,
scares. We talk about modern day jump scares and how they're overused,
yeah,
overplayed. In this instance, this was a perfect because it came out of complete left field. It was one of these deaths that you had no idea was coming. Here, you think that Halloran is going to basically save this family, or
right,
save the wife and the son, and out of nowhere Jack just has this axe, and he basically chunks it right into his body and kills Halloran on the spot.
crazy.
And that's when the stakes are just absolutely crazy and bonkers, and you're in for one hell of an ending. And I really think
Yeah,
it's one hell of an ending.
you're
uh,
right.
so so Danny basically runs into this maze, and he runs for a while, and he figures, well, here, the only way I'm going to get away, because I mean it's snow, right? I mean the ground
Yeah,
is full of snow, so that's what Jack is following, the footprints. So Danny he gets a healthy lead on Jack, but it was always inevitable that Jack was going to find him unless Danny did what he did, and what he did was backtrack. And the way he backtracked is he basically took his foot and put it behind him into footsteps until he, got far enough to where, he could escape, and there was no trace of where he went after that. And there was no way that Jack was going to find him in that huge maze after
right,
that point, right? So
right.
so Jack finally gets to the end of the footprints, and all of a sudden the footprints stop because of what I just said about Danny, and that's where uh, basically Jack just searches for a little bit longer. He freezes to death, and you see this scene of Jack just frozen, um, which which is an incredible ending. Danny gets out of the maze, and he finds Wendy, and Wendy and him get in a cat, and they take off wherever they're going. I don't know where they're going, but they're obviously they're saved. And that's kind of how we ended the movie
Yeah.
until this one last scene, which here's another Kubrick special, K dot. The final kind of like caveat to this whole movie. We pan into this photo of 1920. Is it 1921 or 22, K dot?
1921.
Okay, 1921. And in the middle of this photograph is Jack himself, or at least a visage of Jack in the photo, indicating that he had been at that hotel maybe all along. So it really makes you wonder what did that last scene mean to you, K Dot?
I was gonna ask you the same thing because I was totally I was fucked up from that. I was just like, wow, I'm totally thrown off. Like, what is that? What was he, a ghost, or was like did I mean, I don't know, was he reincarnated? I don't like
I mean, it's a
it
really
totally threw me off
ambiguous.
for
It's a
sure.
really, really ambiguous scene, K Dot. Like you really don't know what is going on there. Was he there? The way I took it was he was part of
Okay.
the hotel the whole time. He was the caretaker before, he was the caretaker now, and he's always gonna be the caretaker. You know what I'm saying? That's how I took
Got
it.
it.
Like,
Okay.
kinda like a Bret Hart thing, the best there was, the best there is, and the best there will be. That's kinda
That's
how.
good. That's funny that you brought up Bret Hart. I just got done seeing his documentary
Oh,
on
it's great documentary,
on
man. I
W.
saw that documentary. It's
Yeah.
great. Unicorn says, "I think the hotel absorbed him." Yeah, I think so too. I,
Mm.
I really do. I think that's an indication of that, Blue Unicorn. I think you know,
So the hotel was alive,
yes,
kind
and
of
and
thing.
and you know what? There's evidence of that further with the follow-up to that movie, K Dot, called Doctor Sleep. Now, Doctor Sleep is about Danny as an adult, and it's pretty good. It's not quite as good as The Shining, but it is a good scary movie for sure, and rather surprising. I highly recommend people watch that because it's a really good, nice follow-up to The Shining, I thought.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
a lot is answered in that follow-up.
Is
And there's a
Jack in
great
that
tunnel.
movie or no?
No, no, well, I say that, just watch the movie. I don't wanna spoil
Okay.
anything.
All right. All
So,
right. All right. All right. Uh,
Kubrick
kind of.
invented furry, Smeghead said. In a way, he did, Smeghead. That's a great point, with the bear scene, for sure. So, what are your, final thoughts on, The Shining, K Dot?
My final thoughts is it's one of those movies that you got to rewatch to maybe get a little bit more because I'm definitely gonna rewatch it again because I know there was some Easter eggs in there
Oh,
that I
yeah.
missed
Oh, yeah.
for sure, and I'm gonna be like, huh, it's just one of those like you don't. It's one of those movies you can't just watch just once and then you get the movie like because well, at least to me, I think you have to watch it over multiple times to understand to really you know
To
break
really grasp.
the
Yeah.
psychology of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was beautifully written. I thought it was dope how they were able to carry the movie without hardly any talking in it. I think the music was perfect for it. Um, I thought everything was perfect. I mean it was definitely a horror movie. Only one person died though.
Yeah. Well, the
I don't
black guy.
know.
No, 2 people died, K Dot. 2 people died in the movie.
Two people died?
Yeah, Jack died and, Halloran died.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, I meant, I guess. Oh, okay. Well, I will correct myself. One person was murdered.
Yes,
Uh,
1 person was
two
murdered.
people died. Yeah, you're
Yes.
right. I
It's one
just
of the rare instances of a horror movie where you don't have a deep body count and it's still scary as shit, you know?
yeah,
I mean,
actually,
everything is implied. I mean, most everything is implied, right? Like you do get a sense that there were deaths there before. Obviously, the Grady family, got slaughtered by their their dad, and then I think it was mentioned that he actually killed himself as well. I'm not 100%
yeah, you're
sure.
right. He did. He offed
So
himself. He said that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But my question is,
yes.
the blood scene, because I heard that was shot a few times and it was pretty costly.
Oh, we didn't
Um,
talk about that. Yes.
what did that represent? Was that the girl's blood or
No.
like
No.
okay,
This is gonna amaze you, K Dot.
okay,
The theory is I talked about the Native American genocide, and it
okay.
goes with that theme. That's what it represents.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. It's
So
kind of
that's
um, like for instance, like the DIA. Obviously, our airport is built on a Native American uh what do they call it? Native American holy ground,
Graveyard.
or
Yeah.
yeah,
Native
and
American
so
burial ground. Yeah.
burial ground. There we go. And they said there's a certain part of the airport where you have to play Native American music,
Yeah.
and they do till this day. Like you cannot build it unless you play this music, or I think like the airport will be haunted or some shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they still play music to this day. So it's kind of crazy how, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Alfredo says, I think Dr. Sleep was a great follow up. I couldn't agree more, Alfredo. I thought it was good. Jen Wow says, my friend hated Cocaine Bear for your information, MLH. That's a shame because I really like Cocaine Bear. I thought it was a riot. It's a lot of
Oh,
fun.
you seen it?
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, K Dot. A lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of fun. I mean, it's just stupid, but
Right.
it's so fun, so fun. Also, that was Ray Liotta's last movie, so Jen said she fell asleep during it. How dare you, Jen? Blue Unicorn says Kubrick is big on symbolism and cinematographic storytelling. You have to watch his movies closely.
Is
And
he a horror director, or is he just
no,
a
no,
director?
do you know of the movie Full Metal Jacket, K Dot?
I've heard of it.
Okay, Full Metal Jacket is a great movie. I highly recommend watching that. He
Okay.
directed 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is the most gorgeous movie you will ever see in 4K, hands down, and a great
Okay.
movie in its own right. Deals with AI. It's very relevant today.
Okay.
That I mean, we could do a whole analysis on 2001: A Space Odyssey as well, K. Dot. If you want to watch a bonkers sci-fi movie that is slow paced, really slow paced, but has a lot of eerie connotations, then 2001 Space Odyssey is a great movie to watch.
Okay.
Let's see. He directed Eyes Wide Shut, which is, I believe, is one of his most underrated, and his last film. That's with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
Deals with a cult, basically, like a weird Hollywood, high end cult type of deal. So
Kind of like the Illuminati type shit.
something like that, like kind of like a satanic Illuminati type thing,
Yeah.
where there's passwords and you don't fuck with this cult type thing, so it's really good, and very underrated, I will say. I mean,
Okay.
Kubrick is a master, K Dot. You'll find so much to love in his movies, and appreciate that it's really crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Blue Unicorn says in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's no on-screen violence, and it's still scary as hell. Well, that's not entirely true. There's a little bit of violence in that movie, Blue Unicorn, but it's great. That's in my Mount Rushmore top 5, and I'm sure at some point we're going to do an analysis on Texas Chainsaw Massacre and why it should really be considered one of the scariest movies of all time.
No, I have not seen that.
Oh,
I've
you haven't seen?
not the 1970
Oh,
something version.
oh
I've
man,
seen
dude.
my favorite version is the 2000 version.
Yeah,
The
you
early
can throw that
2000
one out of the
version.
water, man.
That was good.
No, it's dude. It has nothing on the original at all. And I'm not one of these purists that thinks that
Okay.
the original is always going to be the best and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just a masterpiece of a movie, and
Right.
is just something to behold, man. I mean, people think that movie is super gory. It's not the case. It's really
Yeah.
not the case. But what I mean, it has such a reputation that people actually think that about that movie. But when you watch that movie, it's super scary for a reason,
Yeah.
and it's just great.
And that movie's also based off of, or inspired by, not based, I'm sorry, inspired by the serial killer Ed
Ed
Gein.
Gein, yeah, Ed
Yeah.
Gein.
So he's fucking
Yep,
crazy.
just like Psycho was. Psycho was also inspired by Ed Gein.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
because there was the whole mom son relationship there, and I mean
Okay.
we can get into that too. But what
Okay.
do you think we should do next, K Dot? What can people look forward to? Should we do Halloween? Should we do Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
You know,
Should we do?
I want to do the movie that you had recently mentioned, because I haven't seen it. Rosemary Baby.
Rosemary's Baby. Okay, that's another. I don't like Roman Polanski because he's a piece of shit pedophile. But as far
Oh.
as directors go, he's a great director, and it's a great movie to analyze. It's a slow burn. Nothing really happens in that movie until it happens. Is
Till
the
it
best way
happens.
that I'm gonna put it. So
Okay.
Rosemary's Baby would be a great one to do. If you want to do that one next, K Dot, we can definitely do that.
Yeah, let's do that one next. Let's do that one
Right.
next.
Sounds great.
And because again, I'm catching up because you are the horror psychologist.
I have seen everything, Kate. I mean, we could go into. I mean, we could do this every day, and I'd have a different movie every day for us to do, man. And it would be
Rosemary's Baby. Okay.
Rosemary's Baby. That'd be a great one. I mean, I would say let's do something like Nightmare on Elm Street because there's a lot there,
Okay. Yeah.
or but which we could definitely do. I mean, there's
Yep.
there's so
That was
many
a
that
good
we
one.
could do.
Nightmare
Smeghead
on Elm
brought up
Street.
The Stand TV version late 1980s was excellent. Yeah, I agree, Smeghead. That was
What
really
was? What
The Stand. That's another Stephen King book that was made into like a mini series on TV, and that's an example of a great book to TV adaptation for sure.
Never heard of it. Stan.
Oh, The Stand. It's great. It's
The
great.
Stand. Okay.
Stephen King wrote that when he was staying in Boulder. He lived in Boulder for a short time, and
Okay.
he used Boulder as part of the backdrop for that movie.
I
It's
wonder where
basic-
the hell he got it from. Like what possessed?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know where he wrote that.
I
Cocaine
love
Bear.
that movie, by the way, and that's
Yeah.
the reason why I'm terrified of clowns.
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, it's a great movie, man. Keeper of the List says Cocaine Bear, true story. It is a true story.
It is a true story.
The bear
Yeah.
died though.
But he did. They made it. They said it's a true story, but they added on. Well, what if the bear ate, or what if people were around the bear if once he
Right,
ate the
right.
cocaine,
It's
and
just
so they built the story off of
yeah,
that.
yeah. And I think it's a fun movie. I highly recommend you guys watch it. It's a blast. It's funny. Just a great movie. So, my final thoughts on The Shining. I think okay. Now, if you were to, there's caveats here. I think it's the scariest movie of all time, without question, because of the layers of this movie. It's like Shrek, right? Like an onion.
Right.
So many
Right.
layers to this movie that I haven't even done justice. If you want a more kind of in-depth analysis, you'll go to Collative Learning and learn about The Shining because there's so much more on. I mean, they even talk about the fake moon landing thing and all that type of stuff, which is horseshit. I mean, we definitely landed on the moon, but I mean, it's just great to hear this guy talk about The Shining and KDot. If you get a few minutes, I mean, I think it's like a half an hour long.
Okay.
Just take the time to watch it because
Will do.
it'll blow your mind, man. It's
Also,
really
I would like to give a grade. I would like to give a grade on these movies. So,
oh yeah.
I would let's see. What do they usually do? 4 stars or something like that.
I like to do it out of 10, KDot, because that gives you a good sense of like where it is. Like you can like 5 is average, so anywhere in
Right.
between there you have all a different array of. So I mean, I always do out of 10. So
Okay,
what
so
would you give it?
so on suspense, I would definitely give it an 8.
Okay,
On horror itself, I would give it. I would give it a 7.5.
okay.
Comedy, I would give it maybe a 6.5.
Okay.
6.5. And drama, I would definitely give it a 9 for
Okay.
sure.
All right.
And so I would give it a B.
You'd give it a B.
I
Okay.
would give it a B.
I
What
would
is
give this
what is your
overall. I
rating?
give this movie a 10 out of 10. KDot. I think
Okay.
it's a perfect horror movie. I don't think you can ask for much better unless you're. I mean, if you're a gore hound, there are better movies for gore
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go into the gore movies for sure with you. I mean, I love everything. I mean, I like anything from Evil Dead to, Hereditary to The Shining to The Thing to, I mean, you name a horror movie and I pretty much have seen it. I've seen some of the shittiest horror movies imaginable, and I've seen some of the best. And this ranks there. It's definitely on my Mount Rushmore of greatest horror movies of all time. Is it my favorite horror movie of all time? I don't think I would say it's my. I mean,
I thought it was your favorite.
it's my favorite, but okay, it's one of my favorites because I have to put a caveat in there because there's a couple
Well, I
movies.
guess you said it was the best horror movie, but you never
It's the
said it was your
scariest. No, I
favorite.
said it's the scariest. movie.
Scariest horror. Okay.
Yeah. Favorite, I would put it up there. I mean, favorite is subjective. I mean, I could
Yeah, it
say
is subjective.
today my favorite horror movie of all time is The Shining, and then the more I think about it, maybe I can say Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, there's so many. Sometimes I think the original Friday the 13th is the scariest of all time, just for certain factors. But I give this movie a 10 out of 10. I think it's great. I highly
Okay.
recommend, especially for like somebody mentioned the younger generation.
Yeah.
If the younger generation would just put aside their TikTok mentality for just 2 hours and watch this movie, I
Yeah.
think it would definitely raise some eyebrows for
For
sure.
sure.
John,
For
yeah.
sure. I agree.
Johnny Bravo says, gonna email you guys after the stream. Would like to do some smoke and chill out with like-minded folks in the Denver area. Johnny, would love to talk to you, bro. Let's just put it that way.
They got
Let's
some
see.
ratings on there. MLH. Snakehead said a 10. Johnny Bravo said an 8. And John well, he has 2 scores.
Okay.
8 and then a 7. So
Hey, that's perfectly acceptable. Horror's different in different eyes,
yeah.
Blue Unicorn says Eyes Wide Shut is a 1999 erotic mystery psychological drama, filmed, directed, produced, and co-written by Stanley Kubrick. It's based on the 1926 novella Tom Novell, Dream Story by Arthur Schnitzler. Okay, thank you for that info. It's a great movie. What's Truth in here? What's up? What's Truth? Matthew King says the OG Texas Chainsaw is 100 times better than the newer version, and I agree.
Okay.
Let's see.
I got to check that out.
Blue Unicorn Franklin gets killed on screen. There is violence towards Sally Hardesty galore, so there was no way that movie was ever going to get a PG rating at all. No nudity, no swearing, on-screen killing. There's one, and the violence is definitely there though. So I love the Horror Hour. What's True says, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Scary Swag is going forward. Leprechaun series is funny as heck. Matthew says, I agree. We could do a whole podcast on that as well. Let's see. Polanski's Pirates was the best pirate movie of all time, Blue Unicorn says. Let's see. I hope you do The Thing next. Russell, we're going to be doing Rosemary's Baby. I'm sure The Thing is going to be on this list. The Thing is one of the greatest horror movies ever. It's definitely in my top 25, top 10, maybe even top 5. It's great. I have lots to say about The Thing for sure. Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Misery, Alfredo says, that's another great Stephen King based movie. I was obsessed with Cocaine Bear before the movie came. I like the movie. What's wrong with you? It's great. Let's see. The Earth isn't flat. The moon is. Oh my God. MLH believes in the moon. Let's see. So everybody's giving it 10s, 8s, 7s. That's about right. MLH is up for a good pants dropping 24/7. Keeper says. Well, why not? The Crazies by Romero is a great one. Blue Unicorn, that's another one we could do. We could do
shit. You know what?
Night of the Living Dead is great.
The Strangers.
Strangers is a great movie.
That scared the shit out of both 1 and 2. 2 was even better.
Yeah, I like both of those movies too. Bernie loves The Strangers. That's one of her favorite.
That was scary as shit.
American Werewolf in London. If we want to talk about comedy horror movies, that's up there with in a pantheon as well.
I like the one in Paris.
Oh, I hated that one, KDot. Oh my God. Oh my God, that was awful. Awful,
Wow.
awful movie, man. That's like one of the worst
What?
horror movies I think I've ever seen, Kate. That's
Oh, come
terrible.
on.
It's
Come
terrible,
on.
man. Terrible.
Oh, and
Uh,
by the way, everybody, I know what you did last summer.
uh-huh.
Pretty much the same cast is going. They are going to be doing a what's the third installment for that movie,
Yeah.
and it is going to have uh
Jennifer Love
Freddie Prinze
Hewitt.
Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt in
Oh,
that movie. So
can't wait for that.
that's going to be dope. I love that movie too.
Yeah, it's a great slasher, man. I kind of like
Great,
that. It's good.
great story. Great. I loved it. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see that movie. And that was also originally written by the screenwriter.
Yeah.
Kevin, I forgot his last name, but Kevin, his first name is Kevin.
Here's Blue Unicorn's review of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He says, almost bereft of blood and gore, and here's why. The fact that 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is generally perceived to be a film full of graphic violence probably has a lot to do with its title. I would agree with that, Blue Unicorn. Actually, I mean, you got to watch the movie though. It is scary as shit, man. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre probably is right up there with The Shining, The Exorcist, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, on and on and on. We could go on. It was banned in the UK. It was banned in a lot of countries.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whole hour we could do on the video nasties, KDot, where these movies were just banned in different countries for various reasons. But yeah.
So I got one more question for you. I know we're about to head out.
Yes.
But do you feel that because less is more, do you think that can still, if we did that again, do you think, because you have to be really, really creative to do that.
Yes.
So do you think that analogy would still work in the horror genre at the modern horror genre right now, or no?
100%, KDot. There's a movie called The Witch, which I think is excellent. If you can get past the old English kind of language that they use, sometimes it's really hard to understand what the actors are saying in it, but it's a minimalist movie with a lot of implication. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely. The minimalist take, if done right, can be done to great effect. And there's movies like Hereditary, which I'm going to be on you next for you to watch Hereditary, KDot, and you'll get a good dose of some great filmmaking when it comes to the horror genre with the Hereditary. So all right, that's going to do it for this edition. My final thoughts: watch The Shining if you haven't already. It's an all-time classic.
It is.
We're gonna try to do this at least once a month. I'm guessing, right, KDot? Maybe even more than once a month.
Yeah,
Depending. I mean, because our schedules are crazy. We're mostly working on cop watching and getting information for you guys. Yes, Keeper, The Witch. The Witch is a great movie. A movie about my ex-wife. No, not necessarily, Keeper. Not
That's fired.
That's just harsh, man. That's just harsh. All right, Kate. Anything you want to plug before we get off the air here? Anything upcoming that you want to promote? I know. Oh, before we go, everybody congratulate KDot on 25,000. He reached 25,000 subs.
Yeah,
and he's almost at 26. I mean, it's crazy. By the end of the year, this man is going to probably have 50,000 subscribers. So I think he's the undisputed king of Denver, to be honest with you, when it comes to doing what he does. So congratulations, KDot, and many more successes. Any other plugs, KDot?
Thank you guys for supporting me. I appreciate it. More videos to come. Like I said, we want to do something a lot lighter, but I'm sure you guys are horror fans just as much as we are. And then MLH gets to give me an assignment, that I actually enjoy. I don't Rosemary Baby, I'm going to be watching.
Yeah.
And we'll try to get that done by Sunday. So
Yay, Blue Unicorn, Sumatran Rats. That's what I remember from Dead Alive. That's a great movie. I like it. It's probably the goriest movie of all time. Dead Alive. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
bonkers. It's
I think me personally, the gore, I'm not so like, oh my god, but I'm more into the sound of the kill,
yeah,
like
yeah,
how the kill was done, like the creativity of the kill, like not this last Halloween movie, but the Halloween movie before last, the way Michael fucked up the boyfriend was fucked up, but he fucked that boyfriend up. It
yeah,
was a great kill scene. And I
yeah.
was like, damn, why you gotta do him like that? So the creativity of the kill scene, I like the sound, but the gore I'm not so much into. Like I'm from the old school, like you are, MLH, as far as less is more, and I'm
I like
still.
more is more too, Kate. Like I run the gamut on horror. I mean, if it's a
That's
good
true.
good,
Okay.
I'll give you a good example of a gory horror movie that is just fucking awesome. It's Terrifier 2. Terrifier 1 is
Oh,
pretty good.
yeah. That's
Terrifier
fucking
2
gory
takes
too.
it to a new level, man.
Yeah,
It's just crazy, crazy
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Sumatran Rat Keeper, not rap. So there you go. Um, Okay. Um, Make sure you check out DJ KDot the Party's channel. Most of you guys are already subbed, but if you haven't subbed, please sub. The man's awesome. I'm happy to call him my friend. I mean we work in tandem. Usually if KDot's out there, I'm out there, vice versa.
Yep,
Out there doing really, really hard, tough work. So KDot, it was an absolute pleasure. We're gonna have to do this again.
absolutely.
I'll try to come up with different music and stuff, but just for this first one, I was like, let's do this. Party, not potty, Keeper says. Yes. All right.
Maybe potty
Um,
mouth.
yeah, maybe potty mouth, that's for
but
sure.
but
All right, guys, just remember to take care of others, take care of your family, but most importantly, take care of yourself. For DJ K Dot, the party, not potty, and myself, MLH, Mexican long hair. You guys have a great day. Stay safe out there. And until the next one, we are out.